All power to the people. Power to the people.
All power to the people.
When the Zapatistas rose up in Chiapas, Mexico, people started going there from all over the world. Thousands and thousands of people started flocking to Chiapas to try to learn from this incredible movement. But our story as an organization begins when a Chicano brother who is in the room, but I won't embarrass him, went down to Chiapas, to Zapatista territory, as a delegate from Los Angeles to organize the first Chicano indigenous encuentro. And what this was a gathering that was meant to foster relationships and kind of strengthen ties between Chicanos living in the US and indigenous people from all over Mexico. And in the course of organizing that event, one of the ideas that came out was that there should really be a permanent space for Mexicans and for Chicanos to go down and learn from that struggle and have a way to kind of support it in an ongoing way. And so everyone thought that was a great idea. And, but then our story took a little twist and got more complicated when this Chicano brother from LA met this Asian activist from New York City.
So I guess what I'd like to start on is 500 years ago when Christopher Columbus came here. And we've all learned about Christopher Columbus in school, and then sometime later in life, hopefully, we learn the truth. It really surprised me when I learned the truth afterwards, years later, and it wasn't until college that I learned that supposedly Columbus said when he came to these shores that if paradise on earth existed, this would be it. That he had never met a people so close to God as the people he met here. This is Columbus, a Christian, who said this. Paradise on earth. Never met a people so close to God. So you would think he would come here and then want to learn from these people, would want to learn how to become like these people, would learn how to create paradise back where he came from. But no, what happened in the following years? We know that in the years that followed, Columbus managed to transform himself into one of the most genocidal, brutal maniacs that this world has ever known. In the name of God, the same God that he said these people were so close to, he went on and killed them, wiped them out, raped, pillaged, stole, and took it back for his own. So how did this transformation come about? How did he manage to change himself to becoming one of the most genocidal maniacs this world has ever known? Power and privilege. He was made to come to terms with what greed had to offer, what the system had to offer, a little bit of gold. And he was willing and ready to sell his own morals and his principles out for a little bit of gold. Now, folks like you and me, we say, well, what does that have to do with us? That was a long time ago and somebody much different than we are here. But over the years, in 500 years, Columbus has changed his name, he's changed his face, he's changed his clothes, and he even changed where he lives. But it's the same man and it's the same game. He's reconsolidated, he's reformed, he's got more power than ever before, he's more brutal, more genocidal, more maniacal, more greed-driven than ever before. And what does this have to do with us? 500 years later, Malcolm X had this fantastic story he would talk about the house slave and the field slave. And in this story, he would talk about the house slave, how he lived close to the master, in the master's own house. And living in the master's house, he lived a little bit better than the field slave. His clothes were a little bit better because he got to wear the leftovers of the master. The food was a little bit better because he got to eat the leftovers of the master. He got a little bit more education than the field slave because he lived closer to the master and he needed to do that to carry out his job. Malcolm X, what happened? He said bold, daring, intelligent things whose analysis in many ways still means something today. Then we still haven't solved the problems that he outlined for us in the 60s. They wiped him out. What happened after that? We had the Panthers who rose up. And the Panthers, what they were able to do was they were able to tie together two very important things. And what is that? Theory and practice. And so you gotta make sure you think and you learn, but you also gotta make sure you practice and do what you preach, do what you talk about.
It's like In the Panther Party, I was a field worker. And I'm happy that I was a field worker and not a leader. You know, so I think I had the best experience. I had the experience of being out there in the community, working with people, and not only did it help me change my life, but I saw it help other people change theirs. That's the best position I think I could have been in. When one says that the 60s was a period, a decade of possibilities, that was for real. We felt that there was nothing we could. We began to really understand what revolution meant. We began to really understand what community control meant. They taught us to look at, not only the Panthers, but others, look at the institutions of your community and begin to look at them as yours, right? Begin to look at whatever is under your feet as your land, right? And if you can't take it, make them people who are supposedly running it serve you. And they were giving us ways to organize in order to make that happen.
So in their theory, they were discovering, trying to figure out these long-term political visions of how they could take on the entire system, this entire state, which is based on greed, which is based on stealing and robbing and oppressing and putting other people down. How do you take on this entire system and at the same time actually deal with the needs that your community have right now, right today? And so they did fantastic concrete programs like the free breakfast program, like their liberation schools. And because of this, because of these effective concrete programs that they were doing, the community loved them. The community loved them and was willing to listen and put an ear out for this vision that they were also putting out there about this world that we were going to create. And so what happened? How did this government, this brutal, vicious system that we all live in, how did they respond to the Panthers? They declared them public enemy #1. And they came down with the most repressive force that this government could do to make sure they would destroy it and wipe them out, and so that we would never see anything like that again. And why? Because the Panthers had the high moral ground. They were doing what people needed to see in their own communities, and they set such an example that it started inspiring people all over the country and then around the world to learn from their example and also to be involved. So the government has counted on us not being willing to put our heads up since this time. And to a large degree, it seems like they've succeeded. It's been tough. I mean, I know there's a lot of people in this room who have been trying to do movement stuff for a while, and it's tough to get movement going here in this country. We haven't seen it.
They kicked our ass. But like Sundiata Kohli says, you know, you get your ass kicked, but you're still going to win. Because every ass kicking is a lesson. Then 1994, January 1st, the Zapatista uprising. For someone like me, that was so inspirational because it made me think of my experience in the Panthers and how we might have done, how we might have stayed on top and continued to grow. Because this movement was so creative, right? What the Zapatistas were doing was so creative, the way that they had organized, right? Their thinking, their ability to throw out visions of what tomorrow might look like. When they say we can build a world where many worlds exist, that was heady stuff for me. It made me think of the Revolutionary People's Constitutional Convention of 1970s that the Panthers spearheaded, where it brought together so many different people within the United States fighting the empire so that we could supposedly rewrite a new American Constitution that would reflect what we all needed and respected our differences. The Zapatistas was doing it. They was calling this thing encuentros, that they wanted to create a space where people could come in. They wasn't trying to call the shots. They wasn't trying to be the leaders. They said they wasn't even trying to capture power. They wanted folks to come into play, come into this, right? That was for me like what we could have done back in the 60s.
And the Zapatistas were like this fresh breath of wind for our tired wings. For those of us who felt like, wow, these guys are just too strong, too powerful, too vicious, that we're never going to be able to get a movement going. And once again, they're able to inspire people all over the world with the beauty of their vision and their long-term plans while still meeting the concrete needs of the people right now today. And so while they're doing their liberation schools, so their educational programs, encouraging their own teachers, creating their own curriculum within their own schools, while they're doing their own clinics, while they're doing their own autonomous governmental structure, so they don't even take their problems to the government anymore. let's say you and me, we have a little beef. Instead of taking it to the police, instead of taking it to whoever, these court systems here, we get together and we solve it amongst ourselves. And so they're putting out this fantastic vision, and that's part of why we feel like we need to support them.
People in Mexico. Even though this struggle was a struggle of people who were marginalized in Mexican society based on their race and based on their culture, right? So in other words, even though this was a struggle that had everything to do with the struggle of oppressed people all over the world, the majority of people who were going down to witness this struggle and learn from it were middle class and were white.
I had an opportunity to go in '97, right, with two other anarchist folks who were taking medical supplies to the Zapatistas. And it was a good experience. I learned a lot. But then I also found out, like the sister was saying, that most of the folks going was like these white folks who was like, they hop from one struggle to another, whatever is exciting for the moment seemingly, right? But I said, man, black people got to know about this struggle. There's got to be some more brown people here. There got to be some more Asians here. How can we create unity and really benefit from our different identities? I don't want to be a part of the struggle that doesn't recognize me as an African, as a black human being. Like the Zapatistas are saying, I'm a Mayan, right? We recognize that first and then we can deal. And they were able to create this identity that was not opposed to others' identity. We're saying all the other identities, come on in here, you know? You a black man in New Jersey, you a queer person in the South, or whatever, you're a Palestinian, come on in here. We all got a common enemy, but we don't need to like deny who we are.
They really believe in people power. They really believe in the people who make up these communities. And so they count on everybody who's part of the community to be part of this process of building this new world that we want to create. When they have meetings, these meetings would take such a long time because you'd have to sit there and people would discuss and discuss back and forth, and it's a long process, but that's participatory democracy. You know, that's what democracy is supposed to be about in the first place.
What works for us is dignity. And what works for the Zapatistas is dignity. Dignity factors into their concept of revolution as the core concept. That what creates a dignified life for you is what counts. If somebody is in a position to take away your apartment, your right to vote, your children's education, then it creates an undignified life. That's it. We ain't got to discuss no more. It's time to organize, right? If your wealth in a corporation, bank, or whatever puts me in a position where I got to beg you, I can't get no dignity from that, right? There's a problem. I got to organize against that, right? I got to take back my life, right? But it's our ability to turn to each other and say, we will figure out a way to change this world. And we'll start with the concrete, everyday living conditions we're in. We got kids in common, we got parents, you know, we got so many interests that bring us together, then let's start there.
Our saints and our prophets, to Malcolm and to Martin. I want to give thanks to all the Panthers, the Brown Berets, to AIM, to all the political prisoners that are still locked up behind the wall. I want to give thanks to our ancestors, to our mothers and our fathers, for all the floors that they scrubbed, all the dishes they washed, all the backbreaking work, all the humiliating stuff they had to put up with, that they did do, all the tears that they shed, the sweat and the toil, all the borders they had to cross, so that we could be here with this opportunity to do something with what we've got right now. So I want to give thanks. Thank you all. talk all kinds of crap sometimes, but then there's a point where you have to say, well, we got to stop complaining, get off our butts, and do something about it. And the Zapatista model is exactly that. You don't have to be a superhuman to move to try and create the reality that you want to exist in your world. You have to just get up and do it.